My voice trembled, barely a whisper, as I stared at the glowing laptop screen in the dim light of our nearly empty Minneapolis rental house. The email, stark and unforgiving, revealed a cascade of messages between my husband, Daniel, and a woman named Kate. Each word laid bare months of calculated deception, a meticulously woven web of lies that unraveled my world. "It was all a lie," I murmured, my breath catching in my throat. Daniel stood motionless in our barren living room, stripped of furniture because we had sold everything for what I believed was our fresh start. His silence spoke louder than any confession could, confirming the betrayal I had just uncovered. My name is Celine Harris, and until that devastating moment, I was preparing for what I thought was an exhilarating new chapter in Minneapolis as a financial analyst at Parker & Reed. Over the past decade, I had built a robust career, climbing the ranks with diligence and skill. 3 months ago, when Daniel burst through the door, his face alight with excitement about an incredible job opportunity in London, I didn't hesitate to support him. That's what partners do, isn't it? They believe in each other, lift each other up, and dream together. So I sold our house, the first home I had ever owned, filled with memories of late-night conversations and quiet mornings. I donated furniture I had lovingly chosen, piece by piece, to create a home that felt like ours. I even parted with my grandmother's antique mirror, a cherished heirloom and the last tangible connection to her, because Daniel insisted we needed to travel light for our international move. Now, the truth was painfully clear. His insistence had been part of a cruel plan. "How long?" I asked, my voice steadier now as anger began to eclipse the shock that had gripped me. "How long have you been planning this with her?" Daniel shifted uncomfortably, his eyes flickering toward the packed suitcase by the door, its presence a silent admission of his intent to flee. "Celine, he began, faltering. "How long?" I pressed, my tone sharp. 8 months, he admitted finally, his voice low. "Kate and I, it just happened, and then the plan, it evolved." Evolved. The word stung, as if betraying me and dismantling my life was some natural progression. I felt nausea rise as I realized how methodically they had orchestrated this, waiting until I had sold everything, converted our assets to cash, and stripped away every safety net I had built over years of hard work. "The money's gone, isn't it?" I asked, though the answer was already etched in my mind. As a financial analyst, I spent my days spotting patterns, identifying fraud, and protecting multi-million-dollar corporations from financial missteps. Yet in my own home, I had been blind. Love, trust, they had clouded my judgment, and I had handed Daniel my complete faith. "You'll land on your feet, Celine," he said, reaching for his suitcase with a casual shrug. "You always do." As he walked toward the door, something shifted inside me, a spark of resolve igniting amidst the wreckage of my heart. He was right about one thing: I always landed on my feet. And this time, I would make sure he regretted underestimating me. Daniel and I had met 6 years ago at a financial technology conference in Minneapolis. His ambition had drawn me in, a charismatic man with big dreams, working for a small firm but aiming for the top. I admired his drive, mistaking it for passion rather than the ruthless ambition it would prove to be. Looking back, the warning signs were there, blinking like caution lights I chose to ignore. When we married, I had just earned a significant promotion at Parker & Reed, a milestone in my career. Instead of celebrating, Daniel convinced me to use my bonus to fund his consulting business, calling it an investment in our future. I believed him, my first mistake in a series of many. When his first venture failed, I worked overtime to keep us afloat. When he wanted to try again, I took out a loan against my 401k, each time swallowing his promises that things would be different. My cousin Nina tried to warn me last year over coffee. "Celine, don't you think it's strange that Daniel never involves you in his business decisions? You're a financial analyst, for heaven's sake." I brushed her off, defending him. "He doesn't want to burden me," I'd said. "He's my husband. I trust him." Trust, what a hollow word that seemed now. The signs had been glaring. Late-night phone calls he took in the garage, vague business trips he couldn't explain, and his sudden push months ago to simplify our lives by selling my assets. I had nearly $400,000 in equity from the house sale, plus $200,000 from my retirement accounts and investments, all converted to cash at his urging to ease our supposed move to London. Now it was gone, siphoned into accounts I couldn't trace. The irony was bitter. I, who analyzed financial patterns for a living, had missed the fraud unfolding in my own life. But as I sat in our empty rental, surrounded by packed boxes and shattered dreams, something hardened within me. I wasn't just a victim. I was Celine Harris, a woman who had built a career on precision and resilience, and I was done being played. My hands trembled as I delved deeper into Daniel's email history, each message peeling back another layer of their scheme. Kate wasn't just his mistress. She was a former client who had become his partner in crime, helping him orchestrate this betrayal. They had been planning their escape for months, manipulating me into liquidating everything. One email, sent 6 weeks ago, made my blood run cold. "The wife suspects nothing," Daniel had written. "She's too busy planning our imaginary life in London to notice." Almost makes me feel bad for her. Almost. The casual cruelty of that almost twisted my stomach. I printed every email, my analyst's mind kicking into overdrive. Their messages revealed the full scope of their plan. While I was dissolving my life in Minneapolis, they were building a new one in Austin, Texas. They had used my money to buy a house, the deed already in Kate's name, finalized just 3 days ago. My phone buzzed, a text from Daniel. "I'm sorry it ended this way. I've left signed divorce papers with my lawyer. It's better for both of us to make this quick and clean." Quick and clean, as if he hadn't just torn my life apart, leaving me with nothing but packed boxes and a rental I couldn't afford. I dialed Parker and Reed, my hands shaking. My boss, Linda, answered on the second ring. "Celine? What's wrong?" she asked, her voice warm with concern. The whole story poured out, the fake London job, the emails, the stolen money. There was a long pause before Linda spoke, her tone firm. "Celine, listen carefully. What Daniel and Kate have done is criminal fraud. Call the police now. Then call your bank. I'm texting you the number of a lawyer I trust. And Celine, your job is secure. Take whatever time you need." Tears rolled down my cheeks, not from grief, but from relief. I had one anchor left, one piece of my life Daniel hadn't taken. The next hours were a whirlwind of phone calls, police, bank, lawyer, each conversation underscoring the scale of Daniel's betrayal. The bank's fraud representative delivered the final blow. "Mrs. Harris, the transfers were authorized by you. Since you willingly converted and moved the assets, there's little we can do." I hung up, staring at the empty house, its bare walls a reflection of my stripped-down life. In the fading afternoon light, I caught my reflection in the window, hollow-eyed, but with a spark of defiance. I was a financial analyst who specialized in tracing money trails. I had contacts, skills, and knowledge Daniel couldn't begin to fathom. He thought he had broken me, but he had just ignited a fire. I spent the next week at Nina's guest room, transforming it into a war room. Walls were plastered with printouts, bank statements, property records, email trails. Each night, I stayed up late, fueled by coffee and determination, following the money Daniel and Kate had stolen. Nina, worried, brought me coffee one morning, eyeing the dark circles under my eyes. "Celine, you need to sleep," she said. "You can't keep going like this." "I can't sleep," I replied, scrolling through another statement. "Not while they're living it up with my money in Austin." I had already traced the largest transfer, a $450,000 wire to an account linked to Kate's name. The trail was messy, but I was relentless. Daniel had underestimated me, but I was about to show him exactly who he had betrayed. With every document I uncovered, my plan took shape. I contacted my lawyer, who filed charges for fraud and theft. I reached out to a former colleague at Parker and Reed, an expert in forensic accounting, who helped me trace the funds to a series of shell accounts. The police were building a case, and my lawyer assured me that the evidence, emails, bank records, the Austin property deed, was damning. Daniel and Kate had planned their escape, but they hadn't counted on my expertise or my resolve. As I sat in Nina's guest room, surrounded by evidence of their deceit, I felt a quiet strength growing. This wasn't just about reclaiming my money, it was about reclaiming my life. Daniel had tried to break me, but he had only made me stronger. And soon, he would face the consequences of betting against Celine Harris. The revelation that $380,000 of my life's savings had slithered through 3 banks before settling into an account under Kate's name burned like acid in my veins. That money, my money, had bought their house in Austin, a fact that seared my mind with images of them picking out expensive furniture, sipping wine, and laughing while I slept on an air mattress in my cousin Nina's guest room. The injustice of it all churned in my gut, a relentless fire fueling my resolve. My lawyer, Sarah Mitchell, called with news that deepened my despair. "The police are treating this as a civil matter," she explained, her voice measured but heavy. "Since you authorized the transfers and there's evidence you knew about the accounts," I cut her off, my voice sharp with frustration. "Because he told me they were for our move. For our supposed new life in London." Sarah sighed, patient but firm. "I understand, Celine, but proving fraud is tricky. These cases often boil down to she said, and the paper trail shows your consent." I hung up, the weight of defeat pressing down on me. That evening, I made my first misstep. In a surge of raw anger, I called Daniel. "You won't get away with this," I said, my voice trembling with fury when he answered. He chuckled, a cold, mocking sound that sent a shiver down my spine. "Get away with what? You signed everything over willingly. Check the paperwork, Celine. You're the financial expert, after all." His taunt stung, but I pressed on. "I'll fight this. I'll take you to court." His response was calm, infuriatingly confident. "With what money? Face it, Celine, it's over. Move on." When he hung up, the dam broke. I collapsed onto the floor of Nina's guest room, surrounded by scattered bank statements and email printouts, and sobbed. The stress, anger, and humiliation poured out in a torrent. "I've lost everything," I whispered, my voice cracking. "My home, my savings, my retirement, everything I worked for is gone." Nina found me there, a crumpled heap amidst the chaos of my investigation. She sat beside me, picking up a bank statement with a determined glint in her eyes. "Not everything," she said firmly. "You still have your skills, your intelligence, and you have me." Her words pierced through my despair, a lifeline in the darkness. She was right. I still had my skills. Years of expertise as a financial analyst at Parker and Reed, where I unraveled complex financial puzzles daily. As I wiped my tears, an idea sparked, faint at first, but growing brighter. Daniel had manipulated me personally, but professionally, I was untouchable. I could use my expertise to fight back. The next morning, I called my boss, Linda, my voice steady with newfound purpose. "I need to take some vacation days," I said, "and I need a favor." I laid out my plan, my heart pounding as I spoke. When I finished, there was a long pause. "You understand what you're asking?" Linda said, her tone serious. "Using company resources for personal matters is against policy." "I know," I replied quietly, "but I also know how many times my work has saved the company millions. I've never asked for anything in return until now." Another pause, then her voice softened. "You have 2 weeks of vacation time. What you do with that time is your business. Just be careful, Celine, and don't do anything illegal." I hung up, a surge of energy coursing through me for the first time in days. Daniel thought he had won, thought he had broken me. He was about to learn the cost of underestimating a woman who knew how to follow the money. Using Parker and Reed's financial tracking software after hours felt like stepping into uncharted territory, a mix of exhilaration and unease. I pushed aside the guilt. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about justice. The programs I used daily to detect corporate fraud patterns began to reveal cracks in Daniel and Kate's scheme. They got sloppy. I told Nina over breakfast, my voice tinged with excitement. They thought they covered their tracks, but they made rookie mistakes. Nina leaned forward, her curiosity piqued. What kind of mistakes? Kate's been moving money between accounts to hide the trail, I explained, but she's using a pattern, transferring funds every 3 days, always in specific amounts. The software picked up on it immediately. But that was only the beginning. As I dug deeper, I uncovered something that made my heart race. Daniel and Kate had been running a small-scale Ponzi scheme through his consulting business, defrauding at least 6 other people before targeting me. My hands shook as I sifted through the evidence. Names, dates, amounts, all meticulously documented. They had used their charm to lure investors, shown fake returns for a few months, then vanished with the cash. I wasn't their first victim. I was just their biggest score. I called Sarah immediately. "This changes everything," she said after I explained. "We're no longer looking at a divorce dispute. This is wire fraud, investment fraud, federal territory." But I wasn't ready to go to the authorities yet. I needed more proof, and I had another card to play. I reached out to Marcus, an old college friend who now worked at the bank where Kate had opened her newest account. Over coffee, I showed him the documents I'd compiled. "Jesus, Celine," he said, his eyes wide as he reviewed the evidence. "This is serious stuff." "I know," I replied. "That's why I need your help." What happened next was like watching dominoes fall. Marcus flagged Kate's account for suspicious activity, triggering an automatic freeze just as they were closing on another investment property. The timing was perfect. Within hours, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "What did you do?" It was Kate, her panic palpable even through text. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded my evidence to the other victims I'd identified. One by one, they came forward, each with a story of betrayal that mirrored my own. That evening, Linda called. "Celine, we've been contacted by the FBI about some irregular transactions you flagged in our system." I took a deep breath. "I can explain everything." "No need," she interrupted. "I've told them you had my authorization to use the software. They want to meet with you tomorrow." That night, I sat in Nina's guest room, staring at my laptop. I had one final weapon, a nuclear option I'd been saving. Daniel had made a critical mistake. He used the same password for everything since college, including his email. With a few keystrokes, I logged into his account. There it was, every conversation with Kate, every plan, every lie. I downloaded everything, my finger hovering over the forward button. With one click, I could send it all to his entire professional network, clients, colleagues, business partners. I thought of his mocking laugh on the phone, his smug confidence. The old Celine might have hesitated, might have shown mercy. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I clicked send. The fallout was immediate and devastating. Within hours, Daniel's professional world imploded. His phone must have been flooded with messages because he finally broke his silence. "You've ruined me," he texted. "Are you happy now?" I stared at his message, feeling nothing but cold determination. "No, Daniel," I typed back. "I'm just getting started." The FBI meeting the next morning was intense. In a stark conference room, I sat across from 2 agents, methodically walking them through my findings. Agent Robert listened intently, his eyes narrowing as I detailed the Ponzi scheme. "Mrs. Harris," he said, "this isn't just one isolated incident. This appears to be a sophisticated criminal enterprise." I handed over my final piece of evidence, a detailed spreadsheet tracking every transaction, every victim, every dollar. "They thought they could hide their trail," I explained, "but money always leaves footprints if you know where to look." Then came the bombshell. Agent Robert slid a document across the table. "We've been watching Catherine Bennett, Kate, for the past year. She's been involved in similar schemes in 3 other states." My heart stopped. "What? She's a professional con artist?" "Yes," he confirmed. "And it seems your husband was not just her accomplice. He may have been her mark too." The room spun slightly as the words sank in. Had Kate manipulated Daniel the way they'd manipulated me? The thought was dizzying, but before I could process it, my phone buzzed with an urgent message from Marcus. "Kate's trying to empty the frozen accounts. She's at the bank right now making a scene." I relayed the information to the agents, who moved with swift precision. "We'll handle it," Agent Robert said, already dialing his phone. Within hours, Kate was detained at the bank, caught attempting to withdraw funds from the frozen account. The FBI's investigation expanded rapidly, with Daniel and Kate now facing multiple charges of wire fraud, investment fraud, and money laundering. The other victims' testimonies, combined with my evidence, built an airtight case. Days later, Sarah called with an update. "The house in Austin is being seized as proceeds of fraud," she said. "And there's a chance you'll recover some of your losses through restitution, though it'll take time." I nodded, the weight of the past weeks lifting slightly. "What about Daniel?" I asked. "He's cooperating with the FBI," she said. "Seems Kate was the mastermind, and he's trying to save himself by turning on her. But he's not walking away clean. His career is over, and he's facing prison time." That evening, I sat on Nina's couch, a glass of wine in hand, staring out at the Minneapolis skyline. The city's lights twinkled against the night sky, a reminder of the life I was rebuilding. I had lost so much, my savings, my home, my trust, but I had gained something too, a fierce belief in my own strength. Daniel and Kate had tried to break me, but they had only sharpened my edges. I was Celine Harris, a woman who turned betrayal into a battlefield and emerged victorious. As I opened my laptop to check my work email, a message from Linda caught my eye. "Celine, your work on this case has caught the attention of our corporate fraud division. They'd like to discuss a promotion when you're ready." I smiled, a quiet triumph settling in my chest. Daniel had been wrong about one thing. It wasn't over. For me, it was just the beginning. I excused myself from the FBI's sterile conference room, my heart pounding as I dialed Marcus, my voice tight with urgency. "She's at Meridian Bank right now, threatening legal action," he said, his tone laced with tension. "She claims she'll sue the bank for wrongfully freezing her account. She's got a lawyer with her." My mind raced. "Don't release anything," I insisted. "The FBI is involved now." Marcus hesitated, then added, "There's more, Celine. She's claiming the money was a legitimate business investment. She's got documentation with your signature." My blood ran cold. I remembered the stack of papers Daniel had thrust in front of me months ago, his voice smooth as he assured me they were for our London move. "Those signatures were obtained under false pretenses," I argued, my voice shaking. "That may be true," Marcus replied, "but it complicates things legally." I rushed back into the conference room, where agents Robert and Carter were gathering their files, preparing to leave. "Kate's at Meridian Bank right now," I blurted, my words tumbling out. "She's trying to access the frozen accounts." The agents exchanged a glance, their expressions unreadable. "Mrs. Harris," Agent Robert said carefully, his voice measured, "we need you to understand something. If you've taken any actions that could be considered illegal—" I cut him off, my voice firm despite the knot forming in my stomach. "Everything I did was legal. I just followed the money. That's my job." But as they hurried out, a flicker of doubt crept in. Had my thirst for justice pushed me too far? Had my need for revenge made me careless? I pulled out my phone to call Sarah, my lawyer, but a new text from Daniel stopped me cold. "You have no idea what you've started. Kate isn't who you think she is. We're both in danger now." For the first time since this nightmare began, a shiver of fear ran through me. What had I stumbled into? The FBI's revelation about Kate being a professional con artist echoed in my mind, and now Daniel's cryptic warning added a new layer of uncertainty. Was he manipulating me again? Or was there truth to his words? After a sleepless night, tossing and turning in Nina's guest room, I made a decision. I needed to speak with Daniel. If Kate was as dangerous as the FBI claimed, I had to understand the full scope of the web I'd unraveled. Nina thought I was out of my mind. "He'll just manipulate you again," she warned, her eyes filled with concern as she handed me a mug of coffee. But I wasn't the naive woman who had trusted him blindly. "I'm not doing this for him," I said, my voice steady. "I need answers for me." I arranged to meet Daniel at a bustling coffee shop near Nina's house, choosing a public, crowded space to ensure my safety. When he walked in, I barely recognized him. Gone was the confident, charming man I'd married. He looked haunted, his eyes darting nervously, his shoulders hunched as if carrying an invisible weight. "Kate's gone," he said without preamble, sliding into the seat across from me, his voice low and ragged. "She cleared out everything she could access before the accounts were frozen. Even the house in Austin, she sold it." I leaned back, studying him, my expression cold. "How does it feel?" I asked, my voice sharp with the bitterness I'd carried for weeks. "Being the one left with nothing?" His hands trembled as he placed a USB drive on the table, its small, metallic surface glinting under the coffee shop's warm lights. "I kept records," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Every transaction, every conversation, every scheme she planned. I thought I could use it as insurance. But she's always been 10 steps ahead." I stared at the drive, then at the broken man who had once been my husband. In that moment, I saw my final move. Without breaking eye contact, I pulled out my phone and dialed Agent Robert. Daniel's face drained of color as he realized what I was doing. "I have everything you need," I said into the phone, my voice calm and resolute, and a witness ready to testify. Daniel's shoulders slumped, defeat etched into every line of his face. He knew it was over. Kate might have slipped away with some of the money, but she had lost her partner and her cover. And Daniel was about to learn that betrayal carried a heavy price. The aftermath unfolded with breathtaking speed. With Daniel's testimony and the mountain of evidence I'd gathered, emails, bank records, victim statements, the FBI tracked Kate to Miami, where they arrested her as she attempted to board a flight to the Cayman Islands. Her network of accounts spanned 5 states, with a trail of victims stretching back 6 years. Daniel, in exchange for his cooperation, received a reduced sentence, 5 years instead of 15. I attended their sentencing hearings, sitting quietly in the back of the courtroom, my hands folded in my lap. As I watched Daniel and Kate being led away in handcuffs, I felt no joy, no sadness, just a profound sense of closure. The weight of their betrayal, which had once threatened to crush me, was lifting. Agent Robert approached me afterward, his expression one of quiet respect. "The funds will be recovered and distributed among the victims," he said. "It'll take time, but you should get most of your money back." I nodded, grateful, but already looking forward. The money mattered, but what I had reclaimed was far more valuable. My strength, my independence, my life. Parker and Reed promoted me to head their new fraud detection unit, a role inspired by the tenacity and skill I'd shown in unraveling Kate's scheme. The offer came with a corner office and a team of analysts, a testament to how far I'd come. With the recovered funds, I bought a modest house in a quiet Minneapolis neighborhood. It wasn't grand, but it was mine, truly mine. Nina helped me move in on a sunny Saturday afternoon, arranging furniture and hanging pictures with the care of someone who knew what this moment meant. As we unpacked a box of books, I paused, a smile tugging at my lips. "You know what's funny?" I said, glancing at her. "Daniel always said I was too trusting, too naive. Turns out, I just trusted the wrong people." "And now?" Nina asked, her eyes warm with pride. I thought of my new team at work, the other victims I'd helped find justice, the life I'd rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal. "Now," I said, my voice steady, "I trust myself. And that's enough." Later that evening, I stood in my new kitchen, the scent of fresh paint mingling with the warmth of the setting sun. I raised a glass of wine to my reflection in the window, meeting the eyes of the woman staring back at me. She was stronger, wiser, and finally, completely free. The scars of Daniel and Kate's betrayal would always be part of my story, but they no longer defined me. I had turned their lies into my triumph, and I was ready for whatever came next. Please feel free to comment below if you liked this. Remember to like and subscribe for more.